Hi guys, and welcome to another Treasures from Our Attic. This week I'm going to show you all a document that we have in our collection that actually relates to the anniversary that just passed last week. On Tuesday, August 18th, it was the 100-year anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. And this document ties into that, and it also has a very personal connection to Stanley County as well. The right of women to vote actually came up before in the North Carolina legislature in 1897. And the bill wound up being passed to the Committee for Mental Asylum, which unfortunately when it went there the bill wound up dying. It wasn't really until World War I where women came out of the household, they helped out in the workforce, and they were doing jobs that primarily were always argued that only men could do. And this allowed women to really get the allies and the momentum to make the push to argue why they should have a say in their government as well. So in June of 1920, just less than 2 years after World War I ended, Congress passed the 19th Amendment. And what was needed after that was then 36 had to ratify this amendment for it to become federal law. And by August of 1920, 35 states had. And North Carolina and Tennessee, their legislatures were called back for a special convention to see what they were going to vote on the amendment. The North Carolina legislature actually voted to hold off on the vote of women's suffrage. They wanted to push it back to 1921. And they sent a telegram to the Tennessee legislature telling them what they decided and suggesting that they do the same. Tennessee wound up ignoring the telegram, and they ratified the amendment the next day. So women were now officially allowed to vote starting August 18th, 1920. And that is when our artifact comes into play. So this is a poll book, and it is from the Emerald Precinct. And it lists the citizens that were registered there and their party affiliation. And just in case you're wondering, there was 195 Republicans and 76 Democrats. But we can say this is from the 1920 election because of what is in the back of the book. So if you guys can see, it says right here, for amendment, poll tax, against amendment, poll tax, for amendment, income tax, against amendment, income tax. And these two measures were on the ballot in 1920, statewide for North Carolina. Both measures did wind up passing. As you can see, the residents of Stanley County, they agreed for the amendment for the poll tax, which was, among other things, poll tax was no longer required to pay and able to vote. The people of Stanley County did not vote to start being taxed on their net worth, but unfortunately, like I said, that did wind up being passed. But since this is from 1920, we can then flip to the front, and therefore this ledger contains the names of some of the first voters, first women voters of Stanley County ever. In the 1920 election, there's actually not a huge turnout for women voters, but in this precinct, there's 289 signatures, and 93 of them are of women. So it's still relatively a good turnout, at least for this area. There were multiple reasons why not too many women probably came out to vote in the 1920 election. One was that even though the amendment had been ratified, North Carolina still did not ratify it actually until 1971. So even though women could vote federally, legally, there might have been some confusion on if they could actually vote. There's also still a poll tax they had to pay, a literacy tax, so different reasons why. But if you guys see, we have a list of all the names. And so this document actually is going to be on display at the Stanley County Community College for our traveling voting exhibit. So if you are from Stanley County, you should come down and see if any of your ancestors were some of the first women voters in Stanley County. But that's it for this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.